वेलकम एवरीवन। मैं इस वीडियो में बताने जा रहा हूँ थ्योरी ऑफ एवरीथिंग। थ्योरी ऑफ एवरीथिंग, दैट्स करेक्ट। एक मिनट यार, मेरे ख्याल से यही थ्योरी सार होगी उपनिषदों का, पुराणों का, वेदों का, एनलाइटमेंट लोगों की बातों का, जो भी है। थ्योरी ये है कि देयर इज ओनली वन कॉन्शियसनेस एंड जस्ट स्टार्ट। सिर्फ केवल एक ही चेतना थी ब्रह्मांड के या किसी भी चीज की शुरुआत से पहले। सबसे पहले सिर्फ एक चेतना थी। चेतना ने विचार किया कि हम केवल एक ही हैं, सिर्फ हम ही हैं। हमारे पास कोई सुरक्षा नहीं है। अगर दो लोग होते हैं तो पता तो चलता है कि क्या है, सच है या झूठ हो। कुछ हो सकता है हम गलत हों, हमें पता चले किसी और चीज़ का, तो दूसरा लोग बता दे, तो दूसरे जगा दे, कुछ कर दे, दूसरे लोग बहुत प्रभाव होता है। तो चेतना ने फैसला किया कि हमें दूसरे लोग बनाने पड़े। चेतना दूसरा बनाने के लिए कुछ कर नहीं सकती कि खुद ही है तो खुद को भी बना सकती है। तो चेतना ने खुद के अंदर यह किया कि खुद को हिस्सों में विभाजित कर दिया। और जैसे ही चेतना ने खुद को हिस्सों में विभाजित किया, ब्रह्मांड बना। सबसे पहली बात, एक चेतना ऐसा सोच कैसे सकती है? चेतना ऐसा आसानी से सोच सकती है, पर वो अकेली चेतना तो बुद्धिमान होगी तभी तो सोच सकती है। बुद्धिमान होने पे थॉट अपनी प्लेस पे रहता है। बुद्धिमान होने का ये मतलब नहीं है कि थॉट रहता ही नहीं। थॉट केवल वहीं रहता है जहाँ पे उसे ज़रूरत होती है, वो हर जगह पे नहीं रहता। मतलब कि केवल उसकी जहाँ पे यूज़ करना गया है केवल उतना ही रहे, वो और जगह ना ले, कि वो ट्रुथ ना बने। केवल जहाँ पे वो ज़रूरत है उसे की वो वहीं पे ही रहे। तो फिर मैं ये कह रहा था कि हाँ, तो वो चेतना जब डिवाइड हुई, चेतना ने जब खूब सारे अपने आप को खूब सारे लोगों में बना दिया, खूब सारी अपने आप को अलग कर दिया, तो वहाँ से ब्रह्मांड बना पूरे। ब्रह्मांड कैसे बना? चेतना तो ए मैटर है, वो भी मैटर है। चेतना तो ए मैटर है और ब्रह्मांड तो मैटर है, तो ये कैसे हुआ? सवाल अच्छा है। वेल, मुझे नहीं पता ये कैसे हुआ, लेकिन देखा जाए तो चेतना पदार्थ नहीं है और ब्रह्मांड पदार्थ है काफ़ी सारा, तो ये कैसे हुआ? पता नहीं, शायद पदार्थ भी एक तरह से चेतना ही है, पदार्थ भी एक तरह से तरंगी है। पदार्थ है या नहीं है इसकी भी कोई सच्चाई नहीं कहा जा सकता। तो केवल हम ये भी मान के चलते हैं कि चेतना है, बस, और कुछ नहीं। क्योंकि सॉलिड भी वेव है और वेव तो एनर्जी की डिस्टर्बेंस है। मान सकते हैं कि चेतना के कारण ही ब्रह्मांड बना होगा। तो मैटर जो है वो चेतना के कारण ही बना होगा, जो पदार्थ जो है वो चेतना के कारण ही बना होगा, ये हम मान सकते हैं। अब आगे की बात ये है कि अब पृथ्वी की बात करते हैं। हमारे पृथ्वी के अंदर भी चेतना, हमारे पृथ्वी के आसपास चारों ओर चेतना के टुकड़े 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 टुकड़े, पृथ्वी के अंदर बाहर पूरे ब्रह्मांड में चेतना फैली हुई है। चेतना के टुकड़े टुकड़े अलग 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 अलग। अब अगर हम हमारी पृथ्वी की बात करें, हमारी पृथ्वी में जब शुरुआत में चेतना ने किसी तरह से पदार्थ के अंदर जाने की कोशिश की है। ऐसी कोशिश चेतना ने क्यों की कि पदार्थ के अंदर ही जाया जाए, मुझे नहीं पता। शायद हो सकता है वो डिवाइड होने के साथ ही पदार्थ के अंदर चली गई हो। उस पदार्थ ने, अब चेतना अभी भी विचारशील है, अभी भी विचार कर सकती है, इसमें कोई फर्क नहीं है। वो अलग हो चुकी है बस। ये सारी चेतना है, तो चेतना ने विचार किया, हिलना और ढुलने का भी। तो इस तरह से जीवन की शुरुआत हुई। सबसे पहले जीवन बना होगा पानी में, फिर वहां से चेतना ने निकलने की कोशिश की होगी बाहर भी, क्योंकि उसमें पानी में जीवन बनने के बाद चेतना ने केवल वहीं से अपने आप को देखा है, उसी रूप में। तो चेतना ने वहां से जब अपने आप को निकलने की तो विचार किया होगा, निकलने के लिए खूब तीव्र विचार, गहरा विचार। जब ऐसा गहरा तीव्र विचार हम अब भी करते हैं तो वो जीन्स में म्यूटेशन कर सकता है। अगर अभी भी किसी बात पे गहरा विचार किया जाए कि मेरा हाथ खराब हो जाएगा, तो यकीनन वो हाथ खराब हो जाएगा या ये बीमारी हो जाएगी, यकीनन वो बीमारी हो जाएगी। तो वो जीन्स के अंदर म्यूटेशन हुआ, चेतना ने गहरा विचार किया और वहाँ से फिर अगला जीवन निकला। फिर वहाँ से चेतना ने कुछ और किया तो और जीवन निकले, पेड़ पौधे पक्षी। चेतना ने कोशिश की कि मैं हिरण हूँ और मुझे तेज बनना होगा इससे भी। तो वहाँ से फिर मुझे कुछ ऐसा करना होगा कि मैं ऐसा बन जाऊँ कि मुझे शेर ना खा पाए। शेर भी एक दूसरी चेतना, वही चेतना दूसरी चेतना। तो हिरण ने जब मरने की कगार पे आ गए होंगे तो उन्होंने चेतना ने जोर लगाया होगा उस वक्त, और चेतना फिर उस वक्त हिरण से किस्में ज़ेब्रा में बन गई। अब ज़ेब्रा इस तरह का धारीदार होता है कि वो किसी को भी नहीं दिखाई देता है, मतलब किसी को दिखा जाता है तो लोग जानवर शेर कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं हम किसका पीछा कर रहे हैं। इस तरह से चेतना ने एक से दूसरी योनियां निर्माण करी। जिस तरह से जरूरत प्रकृति की परेशानी सामने आन पड़ी, जान भी आन पड़ी अपनी, तो चेतना ने दूसरी से दूसरी योनियां बनाई। चेतना ने फिर योनि बनाई मनुष्य। जो मनुष्य जो स्पीसीज है, इंसानों की जो प्रजाति है, ये बंदर के बाद बनाई गई है। बंदर से क्यों बनी है, क्या बनी है, ये नहीं पता। लेकिन इस प्रजाति का कोई देखा जाए तो कोई मतलब नहीं बनता बंदर के बाद। बंदर ही सही थे। अब ये प्रजाति के अंदर एक गजब की बात देखी गई है, केवल इसी प्रजाति के अंदर, मनुष्य प्रजाति के अंदर, कि इस प्रजाति से चेतना वापस विराट में समा जाती है, वापस संपूर्ण हो जाती है, वापस सब सारी चेतनाएं बन जाती है। जो अलग हुई थी वो अलग होना हट जाता है चेतना का। चेतना का कोई प्रयोजन नहीं था कि वापस से एक होना पड़ेगा। चेतना का प्रयोजन तो शुरू में यही था कि अलग हो जाए। चेतना का कोई प्रयोजन नहीं था, चेतना अब अलग हो चुकी है। चेतना अब अलग हो चुकी है, पूरी तरह से एक नहीं रही है। इसे मैं हटा देता हूँ। चेतना का संपूर्ण का कोई प्रयोजन नहीं था, चेतना को अलग होना था। चेतना ने आसानी से अलग भी हो गई है, और लेकिन इस प्रजाति में ये देखा गया है कि यहाँ पे आने के बाद चेतना वापस से एक हो जाती है, वापस वहीं चली जाती है। ऐसा सारी अलग अलग चेतना जो अलग हो चुकी है वो नहीं करती है। सभी लोग नहीं कर पाते हैं, बहुत कम लोग होते हैं जिन्हें हम एनलाइटेड लोग कहते हैं। बहुत से लोग हैं जो ये कर पाते हैं, पर अगर चेतना ऐसा ना करती है तो वापस दूसरे शरीर की तलाश में रहती है, फिर वो वापस दूसरे शरीर की मर जाती है, मरने के बाद फिर से दूसरे शरीर की तलाश में, और वो चक्कर लगाती रहती है। चेतना का शुरू में प्रयोजन था कि अगर अधिक लोग होंगे तो हमारे पास सुरक्षा होगी। वो तो प्रयोजन तो गया भाड़ में ही। सुरक्षा जैसा तो कुछ है ही नहीं, सुरक्षा की तो पड़ी ही नहीं है। अब तो अलग ही तरह से चेतना का अलग ही प्रयोजन चल रहा है। देखा जाए तो चेतना अभी जागी जागी लगती है, लेकिन है नहीं जागी जागी। वो चीज़ें सुन रही है, लेकिन उनको गहराई में नहीं ले रही है, बस सुपरफिशियली, केवल ऊपर ऊपर से हर चीज़ को चेतना सुनती है, ऊपर ऊपर से रहती है। चेतना को तभी जगाया जा सकता है जब किसी बात की मुश्किल आन पड़े, या कोई समस्या आन पड़े, या कोई बहुत गहरी समस्या आन पड़े, तब उस कुछ क्षणों के लिए चेतना जागती है। इतनी देर तक वो अपने ऊपर ऊपर की सुनकर काम करती है, गहरे में नहीं लेती है। तो जब चेतना जो है वो वापस से पुनः नहीं जाती है तो क्या होता है? वापस से मनुष्य के दूसरे से इससे दूसरे में फिर से जन्म, फिर से इस शरीर में जन्म, फिर से जन्म, चेतना ही कर्म करती रहती है। क्योंकि चेतना का कोई प्रयोजन नहीं है वापस जाने का। चेतना वापस क्यों जाए? शुरू में भी नहीं जाने का कोई प्रयोजन था, ना ही प्रकृति इस तरह से बनी है कि यहाँ पे कहीं से मुक्ति हो जाए या कहीं वापस चले जाएं। इसका कोई प्रयोजन नहीं था, लेकिन फिर भी गजब की बात देखो, चेतना फिर भी वापस चली गई। कोई प्लान भी नहीं था, कोई प्रयोजन नहीं था, फिर भी चेतना वापस लौट रही है। फिर भी वापस पुनः जो डिवाइडेशन था, जो विभाजितता था, वो हटा रही है, ख़त्म कर रही है। ये हम आत्मज्ञानी लोगों में देख सकते हैं। हम देख तो नहीं सकते हैं, लेकिन वो लोग ऐसा कहते हैं। जाहिर सी बात, हम कैसे देख पाएंगे? पर हम पता लगा सकते हैं तथ्यों के आधार पर हमें पता क्यों लगा? हमें पता लगाने के पीछे ज़्यादा नहीं बढ़ना चाहिए। तो सवाल ये है कि जो लोग जागे हैं, जो लोग वापस से पुनः एक हुए, उन्होंने पुनः से जो विराट में समा गए, उन्होंने पूरा प्रयास किया है कि दूसरों को भी वापस से पुनः में समाने के लिए जगाया जाए। हम तो जग गए हैं किसी तरह से, किस्मत से, लेकिन दूसरों को अपन को जगाने का प्रयास करना चाहिए। दूसरी चेतनाओं को वापस से बताना चाहिए। इस पे जो कृष्ण मूर्ति हैं वो कहते हैं कि डिवाइडेशन तो हो गया, डिवाइडेशन होने के बाद प्रॉब्लम ये हो गई कि हमारी रिलेशनशिप, हमारे बीच में कोई नहीं है, और जो होनी भी नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि हम सभी अलग अलग होना चाहते हैं। मतलब चेतना ही अलग होना चाहती थी, वो भी गई है। तो उनके बीच में अब कोई रिश्ता नहीं रहा। दो अलग अलग लोग बन चुके हैं, दो अलग अलग प्राणी बन चुके हैं। अब उनके बीच में कोई रिश्ता नहीं है, वो अलग अलग हैं पूरी तरह से। उनके बीच में कोई प्रेम भी नहीं है, कोई घृणा भी नहीं है। वो बिल्कुल पूरी तरह से लगता है कि सही है। कोई किसी तरह का कोई वो नहीं है, डिसऑर्डर, किसी तरह का कोई समस्या नहीं है। सामान्य बात है अलग होना। मैं ब्रह्मांड का टुकड़ा नहीं हूँ, ब्रह्मांड से अलग हूँ, साफ सी बात है। तुम अपने दोस्त, अपने समाज से अलग हो, हर किसी से तुम पूरी तरह से अलग हो। हम केवल खुद के बारे में सोचते हैं, क्योंकि हम वही हैं। हम पूरी तरह से अलग हैं। चेतना का प्रयोजन भी यही था कि अलग हो जाएं। पर लेकिन अब अलग होने पे अगर चेतना गहरे में एक बार पुनः इस बात पे सोचे, सुने, समझे कि पुनः जो प्रयोजन जो था कि अगर हम अलग हो जाएंगे और हमें सुरक्षा मिल जाएगी, वैसा तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं। उसकी तो कोई संभावना ही नहीं बनी। उसकी बजाय केवल हम अलग ही रह गए। हमें लगा कि सुरक्षा बन रही है, लेकिन इसमें तो कोई सुरक्षा नहीं थी। पुनः एक होने के ऊपर अगर चेतना सोचे, कितनी अलग होना कितना असुरक्षित है। अगर वो वापस से केवल चेतना ये समझे सुने तो वापस से यात्रा प्रारंभ कर देगी। वापस से एक होने के बारे में अगर कोई भी प्राणी लग जाता है, आज नहीं तो कल, नहीं तो परसों, नहीं तो बहुत, अगर एक बार यात्रा शुरू हो जाए तो मंजिल तक जरूर पहुंच जाती है। पर चेतना यात्रा शुरू नहीं करती है। यात्रा शुरू करने के लिए उसको गहरे में ये सुनना पड़ेगा, समझना पड़ेगा कि जो प्लान था, जो प्रयोजन था, उसका कोई परिणाम नहीं निकला। हम अलग हैं और अलग होना हमारी सबसे बड़ी समस्या है। हमारे बीच में कोई रिश्ता नहीं रहा लोगों के बीच में। हम लोगों को अपने फ़ायदे के लिए कुछ भी कर सकते हैं। हम केवल अपने बारे में सोचते हैं, हम अलग हैं। तो ये बिल्कुल भी अच्छी चीज़ नहीं है। और चेतना एक बार अगर रिश्तों के बारे में सोचे, अपने खुद के स्वभाव के बारे में सोचे, अपने अंदर जाके देखे कि मैं विभाजित हो चुकी हूँ, विभाजित होने का कारण पता लगाए और उसको चेतना पुनः सही कर दे, तो वो पुनः विराट में समा जाएगी, पुनः वो सब कुछ हो जाएगी। विराट में समा जाना अलग होता है, पूरी तरह से विराट में नहीं समाएगी, लेकिन वो अब अलग नहीं रहेगी। वो ब्रह्मांड बन चुकी होगी, पूरा पूरा ब्रह्मांड, पूरा पूरा ब्रह्मांड, मनुष्य जाति ही नहीं, पूरा पूरा ब्रह्मांड। यह कहते भी हैं जिन लोगों ने अपनी चेतना को, जो चेतनाएं वापस से लौटी हैं, उन्होंने ये कहा भी है कि हम पूरा पूरा ब्रह्मांड है। मैं उनकी कुछ वीडियो क्लिप्स डालूंगा भी, और मैं तो आपसे भी कहूँगा कि अब चेतना का जो प्रयोजन है वो सामान्य जीवन जीना हो गया है। वो चेतना का प्रयोजन नहीं है। हालांकि है तो वो चेतना का ही प्रयोजन, सामान्य जीवन जीना, धन यश की प्राप्ति करना, पुनः वापस प्राप्त कर लेना, इसमें कोई गलत चीज़ नहीं है। लेकिन ये प्रयोजन तब बना है जब हम अलग हो चुके हैं। अलग होने के बाद ये सारी चीज़ें चाहिए। जब चेतना एक हो जाती है पुनः वापस, तो वो वैसी नहीं रहती। उसके पास एक अलग विशिष्ट चीज़ आ जाती है, जिसे कहते हैं बुद्धिमत्ता, जिसे कहते हैं प्रौढ़ता। फिर उसके बाद ऐसे बचकानी चीज़ें, धन प्राप्त करना, यश प्राप्त करना, शरीर को बचाना, जिंदा रखना, आगे बढ़ना, ऐसी नासमझी वाली चीज़ें चेतना नहीं करती है। अधिक बुद्धिमान बन जाती है। बुद्धिमान बन नहीं जाती, वो बुद्धिमानता ही होती है चेतना की। और वो चेतना फिर वो अकेली चेतना ही नहीं रह जाती, वो जगत चेतना बन जाती है। वो है ही जगत चेतना। वो वापस सही हो जाती है, अलग होना अपना हटा लेती है। मैं कुछ वीडियो क्लिप्स भी डालूँगा एनलाइटमेंट लोगों की, आत्मज्ञानी लोगों की, जिन्होंने ये सब बताया है। आप वो देखिएगा, ठीक है। इस वीडियो में बस इतना ही।
So, would you say, suppose, no, I can't suppose, we three are in cosmos.
Yeah.
There's only cosmos, not you, Dr. Baum, Dr. Feinberg,
Yes.
and me.
Therefore, we're still alone.
That which is order is alone.
Yeah, because I looked up the word alone in the dictionary. Basically, it's all one, is what it
All one, yes, yes.
In other words, that there's no fragmentation.
There is no fact, therefore there is no tree. And that's marvelous, sir.
But you jumped away there. We got chaos and confusion. That's what we got.
So, as we said, to move away from that, most people are afraid, which is to have total order.
Right.
Alone, as you point out, all one.
Right.
Therefore, there is no fragmentation when there is cosmos.
Right. But most people are in confusion and chaos. That's all they know.
So, move. How do you move away from that? That is the whole question.
That is the question. Here we are in chaos and confusion. We're not over there.
No, because you may be frightened of that.
Maybe frightened of that.
an idea of being alone.
How can you be frightened of an idea?
No, that's
But
easy.
aren't you frightened of tomorrow? Which is an idea.
Okay, okay. So it's an idea.
Yeah, that's all. They are frightened of an idea which they have projected, which says, "My God, I'm alone," which means I'm nobody to rely on.
Right.
Nobody
But that's
whom
an
I can-
idea.
Well, let's go slowly because also
Yes,
there's
this
some
is very important.
correct. We've said that to a certain extent it's genuinely so. You are not being supported by society anymore.
right.
You do have a certain genuine danger because you have withdrawn from the web of society.
Yes. If you are a
Right.
Protestant
No, you
in a
see-
Catholic country, it becomes very difficult.
Well,
No, I think we're confused here. I really
Yeah.
do, because I think if we've got confusion, if we've got chaos,
No, not if, it is so.
it is so. Right? Okay, I go with you. Now we've got chaos and confusion. That's what we've got. Now, if you have an idea about being alone while in chaos and confusion, that's just another idea, another thought, another part of the chaos.
Yeah, that's all.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, that's all we've got is chaos
well, wait,
and confusion.
I feel we
Yeah.
watch the question of language because
Yeah.
you see when you use the word all, it closes things. You see.
Okay. All
In
right.
other words, we were saying yesterday that language has to be more free in its usage, a bit
Right.
poetic perhaps. And if you use this word all, you have to watch it.
All right. But we have this. We have chaos.
chaos, right.
Okay. Now, that's what we have.
But
now, what is going to... see, I have an idea. Let me say what my idea is. That most people are, let's say, unaware, unwilling, don't believe in, don't know anything about this all one.
I'm not talking
Cosmos,
about that. We're
right.
not talking about
That's
that.
right. We don't have that.
No.
All we got right now is chaos.
So,
What about the word all?
Okay, we got chaos. All right. Chaos.
chaos.
Right.
Now wait a minute. Being in chaotic condition, to move away from that, they have the feeling that they will be alone,
Right.
In the sense of isolated.
isolated,
Not the sense of all one.
isolated.
Right. That's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at.
They will be lonely,
That's right.
isolated.
That's
of
right.
that they are frightened.
That not frightened in terror.
Yeah, but not- yeah.
Therefore, they say, I'd rather stay where I am in my little pond rather than face isolation.
That's right. They're
And
not
that
a-
may be one of the reasons that the human beings don't radically change.
That's right.
Isn't
That's
it?
right.
That's like this primitive tribe. The worst punishment is to be banished. You see, you're isolated.
Well, you don't have to go to a primitive
No, but
tribe.
I'm-
I see people and talk to people all the time.
course,
Patients come to me. They say, look, Saturday night came. I couldn't stand to be alone. I called up 50
Yes.
people looking for someone to be with.
I know.
Yeah, and it's
I
much
had
the
to
same.
join this group, huh?
It's much the same, but I think it comes in a more simple and pure form there. And then
Right.
people just frankly admit it and they know that's the case. You see.
Right.
So that may be one of the reasons why human beings don't change.
Right.
The other is we are so heavily conditioned to accept things as they are. I mean, we don't say to ourselves, why should I live this way?
That's certainly true. We're definitely conditioned to believe this
No,
is all it
we
can
never-
be.
Well,
Even-
that's important. You said that's the explanation. We were conditioned to believe this is all that is possible. You see,
Right.
this word "all"
Yeah.
is one of the traps that's
Maybe
holds
that's
us.
the very fact, right?
Yeah. You see, if you say this is all that can be, then what can you do?
Nothing,
Right.
nothing.
You see, that's this use of language. That see that this way of using language may be a change.
Quite
you
right,
see.
sir.
So you have to
I mean,
watch
it's
that
the
word.
condition.
But the word "all,"
That's what he's pointing out.
the word "all." You see, the word. Well,
When you say this is all I know,
Right.
you've already stopped.
Right. Right.
because what does the word "all" do? You see, it closes everything.
Closes
It
everything.
says that this thing is all of reality. You see, it's got to be real.
Yes.
And
yes.
one thing is
Right.
it turns an idea into reality, because apparently it gives that sense of reality to the idea, because if you say that's all there is, then that has to be real. Do you see what I mean?
Right. Yes, I think that's a very good point. I mean, that's very much like the points that we've been making, where the very act of the thinking, that thought is complete, where a thought becomes reality,
Yes.
is also, I mean, so that again, the language itself is the condition.
So, shall we say, human beings don't radically transform themselves. They are frightened of being isolated from the group,
Right.
banished from the group. That's one reason.
That's one reason.
And also, traditionally, we are so conditioned that we would rather accept things as they are. Our misery, our chaos, all the rest of it, and not say, for God's sake, let me change this.
Right.
Well, we have to get out of this conviction that the way things are is all that can be, you see.
Yeah, that's right. You see, the religions have pointed this out by saying there is another world. Aspire to that. This is a transient world, it doesn't matter. Live as best as you can in your sorrow, but hand over your sorrow to Jesus or to Christ or somebody, and you'll be perfectly happy in the next world.
Right.
So the communist said there's no next world, but make the best of this world.
Well, I think they would say that there's happiness in the future in this world, you see, if
Yes,
we really...
yes. Sacrifice your children to your everything for a future, which is exactly the same thing.
But it seems that it's sort of a transformation of the same thing, that if we say we have this society as it is and we want to give it up, but we invent something similar
It's good.
to go to.
We have to invent it. It has to be similar if we're inventing it.
So
out
we
of
really
the system.
yeah, but it seems it's an important point that it's a subtle way of not being alone.
Quite
I mean,
right.
that's what you mean, to go ahead and make it out of the old
Yeah, to
ideas.
to make heaven or the future.
Yes.
So, what will make human being change? Radically.
I don't know. I think that this is such a, you see, even the idea that you're suggesting here is that they say it can't be different or it is all the same. That is part of the system itself.
Agreed.
You know, it's
Agreed. Now, wait. May I ask you a question? Why don't you change? What is preventing you?
I would say that that's a tough question. I suppose the answer would be that I don't know how to answer.
Because you've never asked yourself
That's
that
right.
question.
That's,
Right?
not radically.
Nah,
Well, I mean, it's, you know,
we're asking basic questions.
right. I don't really know the answer to the question.
Now, so move away from that. So
yeah.
is it, as our structure, as our whole society, all religion, all culture is based on thought.
Right.
And thought says, I can't do this. Therefore, an outside agency is necessary to change me.
Right.
With the outside agency is the environment,
Right.
the leader, Hitler, this, or Stalin and Mao, or somebody outside, or God. God is your own projection of yourself, obviously. And you believe in God, you believe in Mao's, you believe, but you're still the same.
That's right. That's right.
You may identify with the state and so on, but you're still good old me there is operating. So, is it thought doesn't see its own limit and realize it cannot change itself. Realize it.
Well, I think that something more subtle happens, that thought loses track of something, and it doesn't see that it itself is behind all this.
Of course, we said that.
Yeah.
Thought has produced all this chaos.
But thought doesn't really see that, abstractly, but I think, say in the bones.
What about the whole business that what thought does, in fact, is it communicates that through gradual change.
That's all invention of thought.
Yes, but that's where I think the hook is.
No, sir, please just let's.
Sure.
Thought has put this world together,
Right.
technologically as well as psychologically. And the technological world is all right, leave it alone. We won't even discuss it because
Right.
it becomes too absurd. So psychologically, thought has built all this world in me and outside me, the churches, or society, and so on. And does thought realize it has made this mess, this chaos?
I would say it doesn't, that it tends to look on this chaos as independently existent, do you see that?
But it is its baby.
It is, but it's very hard
Doesn't
for it
see
to
that.
see that. You see it, we were discussing that at the end of the hour yesterday, really.
Yes, that's what we're coming back to that.
This question of how thought gives a sense of reality.
Yeah, well, that's
And you see, we're saying technology deals with something that thought made, but it is actually an independent reality once it's made.
Made it like the table,
Or
like
the
those
machine,
cameras.
yeah. But but you could say the thought also creates a reality which it calls independent, but isn't. You see, now, I thought of a good example. That is the corporation. You see,
Yes, yes.
you see, the people say are working for the corporation, that it makes money, it loses money, or they strike against the corporation, and so on. But actually, you could say, where is the corporation? You see, it's not in the buildings because,
They're part of it.
well, anyway, if all the people were gone, the buildings would be nothing, right? And if the buildings all burned down, the corporation could still exist
Exists,
as long as
right.
people think it exists.
right. And it pays taxes.
It
The
pays
corporation pays taxes,
You
not the
see, it's-
individual.
So, does thought realize, see, aware that it has created this chaos?
No.
Why not? But you, sir, do you realize it?
I realize that thought.
Not you. Does thought,
Yeah.
you see how I've asked you a
Right.
different question. Does thought, which is you,
Right.
thinking, does your thinking realize that the chaos it has created?
I'm seeing that thinking tends to attribute the chaos to something else, either to something outside or to me who is inside. I mean, I would say at most I would say that I have done it, but then thinking is saying that I am doing the thinking. Do you see what I'm driving
Yes,
at?
yes.
That
But
there's something thinking. I was going to say it's like the corporation. Thinking has invented a sort of a corporation that is supposed to be responsible for thinking. Do you understand that? We could call it Thinking Incorporated.
Thinking, quite.
And you see, the corporation is supposed to be thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we give credit for thought to this corporation called me.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way
Right.
to look at it. Yeah.
Thought has created me.
Me, but
And
it
it
thought
creates
also
an institution.
But it also thought has said that me is not thought, but a reality independent
Of course,
thought.
of course.
You see, like thought treats the corporation as if it were there, just standing like the buildings or the table. It says it's a reality. It's not a mere. You see, I think it's in this question of reality. You see, if you say there are certain realities which are independent of thought, right? But there are certain things which are appearances, like if you're standing on a cliff looking at the ocean, you see all the play of light,
Mm-hmm.
which is not an independent reality, but it's due to the sky, the
Of
sea,
course,
and me. You see, all things are related. So it's important to keep clear whether it's a reality that arises through this whole it's dependent on this whole movement, or whether it stands self-generated, independent. And thought is treating me as an independent reality.
Of course.
And thought is saying that it is coming from me. And therefore it doesn't take credit for what it does.
But to me, thought has created the me,
That's right. Yeah.
and so the me is not separated from thought.
Right.
It is the structure of thought,
Right. Right.
the nature of thought that has made me.
Right.
Now, does your thinking or does your thought realize this?
I would say yes and no. It's like
no,
in flashes it does.
No, not in flashes. You don't see that table in flashes. It is always there.
I think what actually happens, though, is that you see the action. I wonder, it seems as though to really, if we could be honest about this,
Yes,
and
sir.
completely true about it, what do we see when what happens, or what is the actuality of thought seeing this creation?
No, we asked a question yesterday, we stopped there. Does thought see itself in movement?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The movement has created the me, created
Right.
the chaos, created
Right.
the division, created the conflict, jealousy, anxiety, fear, all that.
Right. Now, what I'm asking is another question. That yesterday we said that we came to a moment where we said, well, thought stops.
No, that's much later. Please, just stick to one thing.
Okay, but thought, what I'm trying to get at is what is the actuality of thought seeing itself?
Tell me, you want me to describe it.
No, I don't want you to describe it. I'm trying to get at what is my actuality, or what is the actuality that thought sees? And as I observe this, again, we're in the language here, the problem of language, but it seems that thought sees and forgets.
No, please, I'm asking a very simple question.
Right.
Don't complicate it. Does thought see the chaos it has created? That's all. Which means, is thought aware of itself as a movement? Not, I am aware of thought as a movement.
But you see,
Which the I has been created by thought.
Right.
So I think the question which is relevant to that is, why does thought keep on going? You see, why does it sustain itself? You see, because as long as it sustains itself, it does produce something like an independent reality, an illusion of one.
Why does thought?
Why does thought keep on going? You see,
What is
when
my
it's irrelevant.
relationship to thought?
You are thought. For the there is not you related to
But
thought.
that's the way when the language says there is one. It says that I am the entity who is doing who
Of course,
produces
of
the
course.
thought. You see, which is to say, like say General Motors saying, I am the corporation which is producing automobiles. Do you see?
Right. Yeah, but look, right, you're right. How can I get it through? The question is, I say to you, what is my relationship to thought? You say to me, you are thought. You, in some way, what you say is clear, but that's still what's coming from me. Do you see? In other words, that's still the way thought is moving. To say it's my relationship to thought.
Well, that's the point, to say that can this very thought stop right now? Do you see?
Yes.
In other words, what is sustaining this whole thing at this very moment is the question I was trying to get at.
Yes, that's the question.
In other words, say we have a certain insight, but something happens to sustain the old process, nevertheless, right now.
That's right. Right now, thought keeps moving.
No, Dr. Baum asked a very good question which we haven't answered. He said, why does thought move?
When it's
What-
irrelevant to moving.
Why is it always moving?
That's right.
So what is movement? Movement is time. Right?
That's too quick. What are you doing? Movement is time.
Oh, of course.
But I think, that this,
Movement is movement.
No, no.
That's
From
movement.
from here to there.
Right.
But
This is, what about
physically,
that?
yeah.
Right.
From here to there,
Right.
physically. From here to London, from here to New York,
Right.
from Moscow, and also psychologically, from here to there.
Right.
I am this, I must be that.
Right. But if a thought is not necessarily all that.
I have, you see, thought is the movement. We are examining movement, which is thought.
Thought.
Look, if thought stops, there is no movement.
Yeah, I know you. I'm trying to. This has to be made very clear.
see, I think there's this kind of a step that might help. You see,
What is that?
I ask myself, you see, what is it that makes me go on thinking or talking? In other words, I often can watch people and see they're in a hole just because they keep on talking. If they would stop talking, the whole
That's
problem
right.
would vanish, right? I mean, it's just this flow of words that... So, because what they say then comes out as if it were reality into them, and then they say, that's my problem, it's real, and I've got to think some more. Do you see, I think there's a kind of a feedback saying, see, suppose I say, well, I've got a problem, I'm suffering, right?
You've got an eye, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you see, so therefore I have a sense I am real.
Right.
See, I'm thinking of my suffering, but there's implicit that it is I who is there,
Right.
and that the suffering is real because I am real.
Right.
And then comes the next thought, which is, since that is real, I must think some more,
Right.
because if it were, that would be the
It
case.
feeds on itself.
Yeah, and
Right.
then one of the things I must think is, what is my problem, which is that I am suffering. In other words, I'm compelled to keep on thinking that thought all the time. Do you see? And maintaining myself in existence. Do you see what I'm
Right.
driving at? That there's a feedback.
Which means, if thought is movement, which is time, and if there is no movement, I am dead.
If that-
I am dead.
Yes, if that movement stops, then that sense that I am there being real must go, because
Yeah.
Right.
that sense that I am
I-
real is the result of
I-
thinking, right?
Do you see this is extraordinary?
Of course it is.
No, actually, in actuality, not in theory,
Right. Right.
one realizes thought as movement,
Right.
right?
Right.
There is not I realize thought as a movement. Thought itself realizes a movement.
Right.
It is in movement.
And in this movement, it creates an image of
me
who
or-
is supposed to be moving.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Right.
Now, when that movement stops, there is no me.
Right.
The me is the time,
Right.
put together by time,
Right.
which is thought.
Right.
So, do you, listening to this, realize the truth of it? Not the verbal, logical statement, but the truth of such an amazing thing. Therefore, there is an action entirely different from that. The action of thought as movement brings about a fragmentary actions, contradictory actions. When the movement as thought comes to an end, there is total action. And
And can you say then that whatever technical thought comes about then is in order?
of course,
In other words, that it doesn't mean that thought is permanently gone.
no.
There could still be a movement that had its proper place,
Yeah.
its fitting order,
Its
at the
proper
right in the
place.
proper time.
Yes.
And it comes about. I mean, it would. I mean, the brain can still do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, a human being, is he afraid of all this? Unconsciously, deeply, he must realize the ending of me. You understand? And that is really a most frightening thing.
Yes,
My knowledge, my books, my wife, you follow the whole thing which thought has put together, and you are asking me to end all that.
Yes. I mean, can't you say it's the ending of everything? It's because everything that I know is in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see, really, I am frightened, a human being is frightened of death. Not the biological death,
To die now.
is the death of this coming to an end.
Right.
And therefore he believes in God, reincarnation, dozen other comforting things, but in actuality, when thought as movement, when thought realizes itself as a movement and sees that movement has created the me, the divisions, the quarrels, the political, follow the whole structure of the chaotic world, when its thought realizes, it sees the truth of it and ends. Therefore it is in cosmos. Then there is cosmos. Now, you listen to this, how do you receive it?
Do you want me to
Receive it.
receive it?
I offer you something.
Right.
How do you receive it? But this is very important.
Yes. Thought seizes
And then
movement.
how do you receive it? How does the public who listens to all this
Yes.
say, how am I listening to this? What is it trying to tell me?
How?
He says, I'm not telling you anything. He says, listen to what I'm saying and find out for yourself whether what thought as movement, in that movement has created all this, both the technological world, which is useful, which is necessary, and this chaotic world.
Right.
How do you listen to it, or the public, another who is not here, listen to it?
Right.
How do you listen to it? How do you, what takes place in you when you listen to it?
Panic.
No. Is it?
Yes.
Huh?
There's a panic about the death. There's that death, a sort of fear of the death. There's a seeing, there's a sense of seeing, and then there's a fear of that death.
Which means you have listened to the words.
Right.
The words have awakened the fear,
Right.
but not the actuality of the fact.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that's a little unfair. They
I'm
awaken
asking.
they awaken the actuality of the fact, and then there seems to be a very quick process. There's an actuality of a fact, and there seems to be a silence, a moment of great clarity that gives way to a kind of feeling in the pit of the stomach where things are dropping out, and then there's a kind of withholding, right. I think there's a whole movement there.
So you are describing humanity.
Yes, I'm trying, yes. And I'm describing me.
Me, who are the
It's all the
humanity?
same.
Right,
You're the viewer, the
Right.
people who are listening.
right. That's right.
So
There's a sense of, well, what will happen tomorrow?
No, that's not the point. What
Yeah.
will happen
That is, I'm telling you, that's that
No.
fear.
if, when thought realizes as a movement, and that movement has created all this chaos, total chaos, not just patching, but complete disorder, when it realizes that, what takes place? Actually, you're not frightened. There's no fear. And listen to it carefully, there's no fear. Fear is the idea brought about by an abstraction. You understand? You have made a picture of ending and frightened of that ending.
Well, you're right. You're right. There's stop.
There
and
is
then-
no fear. If
There's
you
no
listen-
fear, and then there's
There is no fear when the actuality takes place.
that's right. When the actuality takes place,
When the
there's
fact-
silence.
With the fact, there is no fear.
Yeah, but as soon as the thought comes in,
That's right.
That's right. Now, wait, no, don't go away.
No, I won't go away.
When
I've
the
got-
thought
I've
comes
got
in.
3 minutes more.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Go on.
The fact and the actuality, no fear.
That's it. That's it.
Right. But then the thought comes.
No. Then it's no longer a fact. You can't remain with the fact.
well, that's the same as to say you keep on thinking, isn't it?
That keep on moving.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, I mean, as soon as you bring thought in, that's not a fact, that's an imagination or a fantasy, which is felt to be real,
Right,
but it is not so, right?
right,
And
right.
therefore, you're not with the fact any
So
longer.
we're saying something
You
there.
discovered something extraordinary.
Right.
When you are faced with fact, there is no fear.
Right.
So all fear is thought, then, is that?
Yes, all, that's right.
That's a big mouthful.
No,
yeah.
no,
I know, but it's-
all thought is fear.
That's the
All
other way
thought
around.
is sorrow.
Right.
That goes both ways, that all fear is thought and all thought is fear.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
And except the kind of thought that arises with the fact alone.
I want to interject something right here, if we got 1 second, and that is, it seems to me we have discovered something quite important right here, and that is, at that actual seeing, then the instant of attention is at its peak.
No, something new takes place.
Yes.
Something totally that you have never looked at, or it has never been
Right.
understood or experienced, whatever it is. There is a totally different thing happening.
But isn't it important that we acknowledge this in our thought, I mean in our language,
Yes.
as we're
yeah.
doing now? In other words, that if it happened and we didn't acknowledge it, then we're liable to
Hypo-
fall back.
Of course, of course.
I don't get it.
Well, we have to say not only it happens, but we have to see it that it happens, and we have to say that it happens.
Well, then are we creating a place to localize there? Or?
No.
No, what he is saying is very simple. He's saying, does this fact, actuality take place?
Right.
And can you remain with that? Can thought not move in, but remain only with that fact? So it's like saying, can remain totally with sorrow. Not move away, not say, well, it shouldn't be, and how am I to get over it, how self-pity and all the rest of it. Just totally remain with that thing, with the fact. Then you have an energy which is extraordinary.
Right.
Can you? It's time.